I don't know that he's matching up skill-wise with the 154-pound champions right now, aside from maybe Fundora.
The World Boxing Organization have ordered Crawford Fundora, and the relevant parties have 30 days to strike an agreement, or the bout will go to purse bids. They consider Crawford a super champion, and if Fundora rejects fighting Bud, he will be stripped of his WBO belt. Terence Crawford had just pulled off an incredible win over Israil Madrimov. Following his historic win over Madrimov, Crawford was asked about the Canelo fight. He said, "If the money's right, you gotta fight. But at the same time, he's got a fight he's focused on. I'm going to go back to my family. I'm going to relax. I'm going to enjoy this and enjoy all the accomplishments I've made in the sport of boxing." He added, "It's not important to me. It's just another milestone to greatness, I suppose, and financially wise too." Crawford was clear he wasn't in a rush to jump into his next big fight. Instead, he's taking this time to chill with his family and enjoy his success. Fans will have to wait and see if a showdown with Canelo happens, but for now, Crawford is all about savoring the moment and recharging. Turkey Alalshikh had recently stated that he believed the only fight the Omaha native wanted was Canelo. Alalshikh seemed to shift focus away from a Crawford-Canelo bout. On X, he shared that he's moving on and planning for major fights in the US for 2024-2025, emphasizing big opportunities for Crawford instead of pursuing Canelo. He posted, "Just wrapped up an important meeting now with my team, planning for the upcoming fights that we will make for 2024-2025. I decided to disregard the Canelo fight, as I don't want it anymore. Instead, I will be focusing for the US market with bigger fights, especially for the legendary Crawford." In a recent chat with Parsons, Alalshikh speculated on Crawford's next steps. Alalshikh noted they had made an offer to Ortiz, but believed Crawford's focus remained solely on Canelo. Alalshikh discussed, "I don't think Crawford will fight anyone but Canelo Alvarez. This is my opinion." He expressed doubt that Crawford would consider a fight with Ortiz Jr., suggesting that Crawford's primary interest is a bout with Canelo Alvarez. His Excellency continued, "We give Crawford an offer for Ortiz. I don't think he will take it. He only wants Canelo." The WBO has mandated that super welterweight champion Sebastian Fundora begin negotiations with interim champion Terence Crawford for a potential three-belt unification bout. The two sides have 30 days to reach an agreement, or the fight will go to a purse bid. Fundora's promoter, Samson Levitt, expressed that he expects no offers until after the key date of the 14th, when Canelo Alvarez fights Edgar Berlanga. Levitt speculated that Crawford might prioritize financial gains and a potential fight with Canelo over this unification match, suggesting that Crawford's team will likely delay discussions until after Canelo's bout. However, the chance to meet Fundora, who holds the WBC and WBO titles following his bloody triumph over Tim Tszyu, is surely a fascinating prospect for Bud, which could see him become the unified champ at super welterweight.
Well, first of all, I'm going to say Samson Levitt is very smart. And I think he's right on the money. I don't think we're going to hear anything until after the 14th, which there's a 30-day window for them to come to terms with this. That's in 2 weeks. So they've got enough time that Team Crawford could wait till after the Canelo fight, and depending on what happens there, to see what the next move is going to be.
Chris Algieri agreed with the assessment, noting that we likely won't hear any updates until after the Canelo fight on the 14th. With a 30-day window to finalize the deal, Algieri pointed out that Crawford's team might wait to see the outcome of Canelo's bout before making any moves. This would give them a clearer idea of their next steps and potential opportunities. Chris Algieri shared his thoughts on the current situation surrounding Terence Crawford's next fight. He echoed Samson Levitt's viewpoint that no significant updates regarding a potential bout between Crawford and Sebastian Fundora are expected until after Canelo Alvarez's fight on the 14th. Algieri agreed that Crawford's team might use the time to assess the outcome of Canelo's match before making any decisions. Chris stated, "In terms of whether Crawford is out for the titles or the money, I believe that Crawford's looking for legacy money fights at this point, which is what he deserves." Algieri concurred with Levitt's opinion that Crawford is likely focused on securing high-profile fights that offer substantial financial rewards and enhance his legacy, rather than simply collecting more titles. Algieri acknowledged that Crawford has earned the right to seek the biggest paydays available. Furthermore, he added, "I'm not sure he really wants to go around and collect the belts like he's done time and time again at the lower weight classes. With this new crop of younger, bigger champions that are out there, 154 is laden with a lot of tough talent and guys that are looking to be world champions." Algieri pointed out that the super welterweight division is now filled with formidable opponents. He suggested that Crawford may not be interested in chasing more titles at this stage in his his career, especially given the competitive nature of the 154-pound division with many emerging talents. Algieri noted, but it seems like Crawford's scope is on Canelo. There's been a lot of talk that it's Canelo or bust for Crawford, which he hasn't come out explicitly and said, but he's hinted at that. That's the kind of fight that he needs to get up at this stage of his career. That's the kind of money that he's looking for. That's the kind of legacy fight that he's looking for. And once again, I believe he deserves that kind of fight.
If I'm Crawford, I'm thinking the same thing. I'm going to be looking for that Canelo fight.
Algieri emphasized that Crawford's primary focus appears to be on a high-profile fight with Canelo Alvarez. He acknowledged that while Crawford hasn't explicitly declared his intentions, the hints suggest that a bout with Canelo is what he's aiming for at this stage of his career. Algieri believes Crawford deserves such a significant opportunity given his achievements and current standing in the sport. Chris Algieri also discussed the ongoing speculation about Sebastian Fundora's next move in the boxing world. He noted the uncertainty surrounding Fundora's future opponent and the mixed signals about Alalshikh's current training and readiness for a fight. He stated, "It seems to me that Fundora is moving in the Spence direction. I know there's been a lot of misdirection in terms of what's going to happen next. Spence hasn't been training in that, but it seems to me like that's the fight to be made. It wasn't that long ago where, in the ring after Fundora's upset victory over Tim Chu, down came Alalshikh." Algieri emphasized that despite the confusion and Spence's apparent lack of recent training, a fight between Fundora and Spence still seems like a natural next step. He recalled Spence's appearance after Fundora's win over Tiju, suggesting that this potential matchup has been on the horizon and could soon become a reality.
Only time will tell, but we got 30 days to figure out what's going to happen here. But just like Samson said, I don't think we're going to hear anything until after that Canelo fight.
It's still up in the air whether Crawford and Fundora will come to an agreement and where the fight will take place, whether it'll be in Saudi Arabia or in the US, as Fundora prefers. Crawford currently holds the WBA championship belt that he won from Israel Madrimov, along with the WBO interim title. Fundora's promoter, Samson Lukowicz, isn't counting on Crawford accepting the fight easily, as Crawford seems focused on the big payday he could get from a bout with Canelo Alvarez. Recently, Fundora was rumored to have an agreement in the works to fight Alalshikh, with talks having been ongoing for months. If Fundora wants to keep his WBO title, he might need to fight Crawford instead of Spence. While a fight with Spence would be notable, a match against Crawford is seen as a much bigger opportunity. As for Canelo, after his fight with Edgar Berlanga, he's expected to take a break and might not return to the ring until May 2025, depending on how things go. Boxing Scene has obtained Canelo's response regarding how a supposed fight against Crawford would be framed, now that he has the obligation to fight Fundora. "I'm not saying that fight against Crawford can't happen. The order doesn't matter." Paulie Malignaggi weighed in on the potential fight between Terence Crawford and Canelo Alvarez, discussing the pros and cons of such a matchup. He noted the dynamics of fighting a high-profile opponent like Canelo, as well as the challenges presented by up-and-coming champions in the 154-pound division. He stated, "Canelo is a heavy favorite, but there's also a less obvious advantage to fighting him. If you take on Canelo, it's kind of a win-win situation. Number one, you're probably fighting someone who's not as hungry." Malignaggi pointed out that fighting Canelo could be seen as a double-edged sword. While Canelo is a well-established champion and a heavy favorite, he might not be as motivated or aggressive as he once was. This perceived drop in hunger could be an advantage for his opponents. Paulie also added, "Looking at his choice of opposition, it's clear he's not fighting as aggressively as he used to. On the other hand, the 154-pound champions are all new to the major scene and very dangerous. Beating them might not bring as much credit, but you'll be facing skilled, hungry fighters. The only downside with Canelo is whether he's too big for you." Malignaggi concluded by emphasizing that while facing Canelo could offer strategic benefits due to his perceived lack of aggression, the up-and-coming 154-pound champions present a different kind of challenge. They're all skilled and eager to make a name for themselves, which makes them formidable opponents. The main concern with fighting Canelo is whether his size and strength could be too much of a hurdle. Paulie Malignaggi shared his thoughts on Terence Crawford's potential opponents and the strategic choices Crawford might face. He analyzed the pros and cons of fighting Canelo Alvarez versus other champions in the 154-pound division. He stated, "I don't know that he's matching up skill-wise with 154-pound champions right now, aside from maybe Fundora." Malignaggi expressed uncertainty about Crawford's ability to match up against the current 154-pound champions, noting that Fundora might be an exception. He suggested that Crawford could face challenges against these fighters. He also noted, "Fundora, I think, if you're looking to collect belts, I agree with you, Chris. There's nothing really to gain out of the Fundora fight except belts. Malignaggi agreed with Chris, noting that a fight with Fundora would primarily be about adding titles to Crawford's collection, rather than providing significant financial gain. Furthermore, he stated, "If you lose to Canelo, you can always say you jumped up too many weight classes, but if you beat him, you'll get way more credit than if you beat one of the 154-pound champions." He pointed out that losing to Canelo could be framed as a result of moving up too many weight classes, while a victory would offer Crawford far more recognition and acclaim compared to defeating other 154-pound contenders. Paulie also noted, Fundora is coming off a big upset but is seen as a weak link. The other 154-pounders are very dangerous but don't bring the same notoriety that Canelo does. It's going to be all about Canelo. Malignaggi stated that despite the potential dangers posed by other 154-pound fighters, they lack the high profile and prestige of a bout with Canelo Alvarez. Therefore, for Crawford, pursuing a fight with Canelo remains the most strategic and rewarding option.
Canelo seems to be trying to overprice himself with anything here lately.
Malignaggi observed that Canelo Alvarez appears to be setting his price high for any potential fight. This trend could be impacting negotiations and the feasibility of making a fight with Crawford, as Canelo might be pricing himself out of certain matchups. Canelo's high demands could make it challenging for a deal to be struck, adding more uncertainty to the future of this much-anticipated bout. Showbiz the Adult shared his perspective on the current state of boxing matches involving Terence Crawford. He expressed his thoughts on the appropriateness of potential opponents for Crawford and his opinion on the recent developments in the welterweight division. He stated, "I wanted Terence Bud Crawford versus Fundora. I thought that was appropriate. I didn't think Alalshikh deserved a shot at the titles coming off the loss." Showbiz believed that Crawford versus Fundora would be a more suitable and competitive fight, while he feels that Spence's recent defeat should impact his eligibility for a title shot. This perspective adds another layer to the ongoing discussion about the best matchups in boxing.
I don't know if Terence Crawford gives a damn. Honestly, I'm not sure if Terence Crawford, he's running out of time as far as becoming undisputed at 154. He'll get the belts or whatever, but I don't think that's what he was trying to do. But I think he was just really preparing, like moving up, feel his body at 154. He rehydrated up to like 170, right? So he wanted to see how he felt in the ring at 170. You know, he wants to fight Canelo Alvarez, which Canelo Alvarez, he said, "Hey, I'm open to fighting Terence Bud Crawford next." He just said it.
Showbiz the Adult highlighted Crawford's apparent focus on moving up to 170 pounds and testing his body's response at that weight. He noted Crawford's interest in a high-profile fight with Canelo Alvarez, suggesting that Crawford's primary goal may be to secure a big matchup rather than simply collecting titles. After September 14, the picture will become clearer, and maybe in 2025 we will see the big showdown. Mind you, Terence would do well to test himself at super middleweight before fighting the king of this division. Since becoming a 4-division champion with a debut victory in the super welterweight ranks over Israel Madrimov, the 36-year-old from Omaha has made it clear he wants to face Saul Canelo Alvarez up at super middleweight. The Mexican has been relatively dismissive of the fight, though hasn't ruled it out. In the meantime, the WBO has ordered its champion Sebastian Fundora, who also holds the WBC belt after a bloody battle with Tim Tszyu, to face Crawford. Speaking to Boxing Scene, Fundora's promoter Samson Lukowich said he didn't expect negotiations to truly kick off until Canelo faces Edgar Berlanga on September 14th. Samson Lukowich said, "I'm waiting on an offer now, and I'm certain one will not come until after the 14th. I'd like to find out right now if Crawford's going to fight for the money or the titles. I believe he wants the money." Canelo has said he will be willing to listen to an offer for the Crawford bout after the defense against Berlanga. If he accepts, Bud may just sit on the sidelines until early 2025. If he doesn't and decides to take the ordered unification, Lukowich is supremely confident in his man. He further stated, "Crawford is 37 years old, and Sebastian Fundora will kick his ass. If Crawford fights the way he fought against Madrimov, he has no shot. He will get knocked out by Fundora." The pair have a 30-day negotiation period before purse bids are called. Fundora was previously targeting a fight with Alalshikh Jr., the man Bud beat to become undisputed at welterweight. Terence Crawford and Sebastian Fundora are stuck in each other's crosshairs. Despite both expressing targeted fights versus other opponents, they are now forced to work out terms for a junior middleweight title consolidation bout. The ring has confirmed that the WBO ordered a 30 30-day negotiation period to reach a deal and avoid a purse bid hearing. Please be advised that the parties herein have 30 days upon issuance to reach an agreement, WBO Championship Committee Chairman Luis Batista Salas said in an official letter obtained by the ring. If an accord is not reached within the time frame stated herein, a purse bid will be ordered. The minimum bid is $200,000 under such a scenario. Crawford would be entitled to the favorable end given his super champion designation, even though Fundora holds the full title. Crawford won the interim WBO 154-pound title and the full WBA belt in an Ogder 3 decision over Israel Madrimov. Fundora holds the full version of the WBO and WBC titles. Crawford is a promotional free agent and represented by legal advisor Harrison Whitman. Fundora is with Samson Boxing, though TGB Promotions' Tom Brown was listed as point of contact for negotiations. TGB is the promoter of record for all Premier Boxing Champions (PBC) events. The ordered bout was an extension of a ruling applied per the conditional terms by the sanctioning body in its approval for Fundora to challenge previously unbeaten titleist Tim Tszyu. Fundora won their blood-soaked March 30th Premier Boxing Champions (PBC) on Prime pay-per-view headliner via split decision. He also picked up the vacant WBC 154-pound title with the win. Please be advised that March 25, 2024, this committee granted sanction approval of the Tszyu-Fundora WBO title fight. WBO Championship Committee Chairman Luis Batista Salas noted at the time, sanction approval was granted subject to the winner facing next the mandatory challenger in the junior middleweight division, Terence "Bud" Crawford, within 180 days after the Tszyu-Fundora bout. The foregoing condition was essential for purposes of sanction approval. Therefore, in light of the above and per WBO regulations of World Championship contests, the parties are hereby ordered to commence negotiations for the WBO Mandatory Junior Middleweight Championship. Failure to move forward with the fight without the other party's consent will result in forfeiture of their version of the WBO title. The distinction is important, as Crawford and Fundora have set their sights on other matchups. Crawford has openly spoken of his desire to hold out for a super fight with Saul Canelo Alvarez. The interest remains one way, as Alvarez, the reigning ring, WBC, WBA, and WBO super middleweight champion, has been dismissive of the matchup when asked about it. In fairness, Alvarez is due to defend his crown versus Edgar Berlanga on September 14 at T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. It is not in his nature to look past any given task at hand. Fundora was for months linked to a potential title defense versus former unified welterweight titleist Alalshikh Jr. The matchup has been on hold for months, in large part due to greater clarification required on Fundora's mandatory title defense obligations. Spence has not fought since his one-sided 9th-round stoppage defeat to Crawford in last July 29's undisputed welterweight championship. Crawford fully unified the division, but has since parted ways with the WBC, IBF, and WBO welterweight titles. He was also relieved as ring champion, as he is clearly not returning to the weight. PBC cannot move forward with Fundora-Spence or any other planned fight for its 6x6 junior middleweight titleist until this matter is resolved. In the world of boxing, the potential fight between Terence Crawford and Sebastian Fundora is greatly discussed, but the focus is totally shifting towards the high-stakes possibility of a match with Canelo Alvarez. With Crawford's desire for a blockbuster fight and Fundora's mandatory challenge, the next few weeks are crucial. As the boxing community eagerly awaits clarity on these potential matchups, the suspense continues to build. What are your thoughts on Crawford's next move? Should he focus on the unification bout with Fundora, or is a high-profile clash with Canelo the more appealing option? Let us know what you think.